37 miles. That's how far my husband left me standing in the pouring rain last Friday night. And that was his last mistake. I'm Isabella Rivers. And if you're watching this, you've probably been underestimated, abandoned, or betrayed by someone who is supposed to love you. What I'm about to share isn't just about my husband thinking it was perfectly acceptable to dump his wife on the highway to teach her a lesson. It's about how 8 years of silence transformed into 847 pages of evidence, and how a shareholders' meeting 72 hours later changed everything. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. It all started with an argument about money, but not our money. It was about the $2.3 million that belonged to someone who could no longer protect herself. 8 years ago, I walked away from my position as senior accountant at Deloitte to support Marcus's career ambitions. It seemed like the right decision at the time. He'd just been offered a junior executive role at Apex Development Corporation, a commercial real estate firm with offices from Boston to Miami. "This is our chance, Bella," he'd said, holding the offer letter like it was made of gold. "With you by my side, I'll be running that place in 5 years." He was right about the timeline, wrong about everything else. By year 3, Marcus had climbed to vice president of operations. By year 5, executive vice president. Our penthouse in Manhattan's Upper East Side cost $3.2 million, a number he loved mentioning at dinner parties where I was introduced as my lovely wife, Isabella, with no mention of my CPA credentials or the fact that I'd helped him prepare every presentation that got him promoted. "Everything you have is because of me," became his favorite phrase. The designer clothes, the charity galas, the summer house in the Hamptons, all proof in his mind of his generosity. When someone at a company event asked about my career, Marcus would laugh and say, "Bella keeps our home beautiful. That's a full-time job with my schedule." I stopped correcting him after year 4, but I kept my CPA license active, paying the continuing education fees from a separate account he didn't know existed. Some instinct, maybe. Or maybe it was my mother's voice in my head. "Never give up your ability to stand on your own feet, sweetheart." My mother, Margaret Chen, yes, that Margaret Chen who built a medical supply empire from nothing, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 2 years ago. The woman who once negotiated million-dollar contracts could no longer remember my name most days. The first red flag came 6 months ago, disguised as a routine banking notification. Mom's trust fund, carefully structured to cover her care at Willowbrook Memory Center, had triggered an unusual activity alert, a $50,000 withdrawal. When I asked Marcus about it at dinner, he didn't even look up from his phone. "Just some administrative fees, babe. Your mom's account is complex. I'm handling it to save you the stress." I nodded, served his salmon, and made a mental note. That email became evidence number 1 of what would eventually be 847 separate documents. 2 weeks later, another alert. This time, $75,000. Marcus was in Chicago for a critical acquisition meeting, so I did something I hadn't done in years. I logged into my old forensic accounting software. The muscle memory was still there, fingers flying across the keyboard as I traced the transaction. The money had gone to something called Project Haven LLC. I'd never heard of Project Haven. That's when my phone rang. Rachel Foster, Apex's former CFO, who'd resigned abruptly 3 months earlier. "Isabella," her voice was careful, measured. "I can't say much for legal reasons, but you might want to look closely at the quarterly reports, especially the subsidiary holding section." "Rachel, what are you—" "I'm sorry. I've probably said too much already. Just keep your eyes open. And Isabella, document everything." The line went dead. I sat there, staring at my laptop screen, feeling something shift in my chest. It wasn't fear. It was the sensation of puzzle pieces clicking together in the dark. I saved Rachel's number under yoga instructor in my phone and opened a new encrypted cloud storage account. Then I started digging into Project Haven LLC. What I found made my hands shake, but not with fear, with pure crystallized rage. Project Haven LLC was a shell company, registered in Delaware with a Manhattan mailing address that turned out to be a UPS store box. Its sole managing member? Marcus Rivers. Its primary funding source? My mother's trust fund. Over the next 3 weeks, I became a forensic archaeologist of my husband's deception. Using my old Deloitte access codes, which, remarkably, still worked for public record searches, I uncovered 16 separate transactions totaling $2.3 million. Each transfer was small enough to avoid federal reporting requirements, spread across 18 months. Classic structuring. The money trail led to 3 development projects that existed only on paper: Haven Tower, Haven Plaza, Haven Gardens, all approved by Marcus as EVP, all funded by my mother's money, all flowing back into accounts controlled by, I had to read it twice to believe it, Marcus and his attorney, Tom Bradley. I sat in my walk-in closet at 2 a.m., laptop balanced on a shoebox, photographing every document with my phone as backup. My mother's signature on the authorization forms was shaky, barely legible, signed during what her medical record showed was a severe cognitive episode. The next morning, I visited Mom at Willowbrook. She was having one of her rare lucid moments, sitting by the window in her favorite cardigan. "Mom," I said carefully, "did Marcus ever bring you papers to sign?" Her eyes, still sharp in that moment, met mine. "That man, he said it was for you, to protect you." Her hand found mine, grip surprisingly strong. "Isabella, baby, I might forget your face tomorrow, but I never forgot this. He's not who he pretends to be." "I know, Mom." She leaned closer, voice dropping. "Then do what needs to be done. I raised a fighter, not a victim." I kissed her forehead and made a promise. Then I called a number I'd researched but never dialed. Daniel Morrison, financial crimes attorney. Daniel Morrison's office occupied the 42nd floor of a building that screamed discretion and competence. No flashy nameplate, no advertisements, just Morrison Legal Consulting in understated bronze letters. "Mrs. Rivers," he said, after reviewing my documentation for 30 silent minutes, "this isn't just civil fraud. This is federal wire fraud, elder financial abuse, and potentially RICO if there are other victims." "RICO?" My voice stayed steady, though my pulse hammered. "Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. If Marcus and Bradley did this to others..." He pulled up a database on his screen. "May I?" I nodded. 20 minutes later, we had 4 more names, 4 more elderly investors, another $6.4 million diverted to phantom projects. "We need more than documents," Daniel said. "We need witnesses, someone from inside Apex." "I might know someone." Rachel Foster agreed to meet us at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, far from Apex's Manhattan territory. She looked exhausted but determined. "I resigned because I refused to sign off on the Q2 audit," she said without preamble. "Marcus threatened to destroy my career if I talked. But seeing you here..." She pushed a flash drive across the table. Internal emails, board communications, everything I could save before they locked me out. "Why help me now?" I asked. "Because my grandmother died last year in a state-run facility after someone stole her life savings. I couldn't prove who, but I can prove this." Daniel reviewed the files on his encrypted laptop. "This is enough for federal charges. But we need to time this perfectly. When's the next public forum where Marcus can't run?" I smiled for the first time in months. "The annual shareholders meeting, this Tuesday, 3 days from now." "He'll be presenting to 200 people," Rachel added. "Board members, major investors, media." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then we'd better prepare your presentation, Mrs. Rivers. You're about to become a whistleblower." Friday night. We were driving back from Marcus's boss's birthday party at the St. Regis. Marcus had been drinking, not enough to impair his driving, but enough to loosen his tongue and sharpen his cruelty. "Did you really have to mention you were an accountant to Harrison's wife?" he started as we merged onto I-95. She looked at you like you were the help trying to sound important. I stayed quiet, watching the rain begin to spatter the windshield. My phone was recording in my purse, as it had been for every conversation over the past month. Silent treatment? Really, Bella? His knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. After everything I've given you? Everything you've given me? I kept my voice level. Like the $400,000 you withdrew from my mother's account last Tuesday? The car swerved slightly. What are you talking about? Project Haven Gardens, the development that doesn't exist except on the papers you filed. You've been snooping through fraud? Yes, Marcus, I have. He yanked the wheel hard, pulling onto the shoulder. Cars flew past us, headlights cutting through the now heavy rain. The dashboard clock read 9:47 p.m. The GPS showed we were 37.3 miles from home. You ungrateful bitch, he snarled. Your mother doesn't even know her own name. That money is sitting there doing nothing while I'm building an empire. Our empire. Built on stealing from a sick woman? It's not stealing when it's family money, and I'm family. You're a thief, Marcus. And when the FBI... His face went purple. The FBI? You called the... He stopped, calculating. Then his expression shifted to something colder. You know what? You need a lesson in gratitude. He reached across me, unlocked the passenger door. Get out, Marcus. Get out! He shoved my shoulder. Walk home. Maybe 37 miles in the rain will remind you who pays for your life. I looked at him. Really looked at him. The mask had finally slipped completely. Okay, I said calmly, grabbing my purse. I'll get out. His smile was triumphant as I stepped into the downpour. He peeled away, taillights disappearing into the storm. The rain hit like ice needles, soaking through my cocktail dress in seconds. I stood on the shoulder of I-95, watching Marcus's BMW disappear into the darkness. Cars whipped past, spraying walls of water that pushed me further from the road. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I pulled out my phone, wiped the screen with my equally wet palm, and made one call. Daniel, it's time, code red. Where are you? His voice was instantly alert despite the late hour. I-95 northbound, mile marker 47. Marcus just committed felony abandonment. And I have it all recorded. I'm sending someone. Black Suburban, license plate ending in 4782. 20 minutes. Make it 15. And Daniel? File everything Monday morning. The shareholders' meeting is in 72 hours. Isabella, are you sure? He just gave us the perfect ending to our presentation. Abandonment in a storm after confronting him about elder abuse. No jury in America would sympathize with him now. I ended the call and immediately dialed Rachel. We're going live Tuesday. Can you have the forensic analysis ready? Already done. Isabella, where are you? You. Standing in the rain on I-95. Marcus's final mistake. I'll explain later. My third call was to someone unexpected. Alexis Rivers, Marcus's sister. Alexis, it's Isabella. I know we've never been close, but... Isabella? It's almost 10 at night. Your brother just abandoned me on the highway. I'm filing charges Monday. If you have anything you want to protect from the asset freeze, you have 48 hours. Silence. Then, he did it to you too? What do you mean, too? Check Dad's estate records. Marcus was executor. I'll send you what I have. The black Suburban pulled up 14 minutes later. Daniel Morrison himself was driving, a towel already in his hands. I climbed in, dripping on his leather seats, and smiled. You know what's funny? He thinks I'm walking home right now, learning my lesson. What lesson would that be? I pulled off my wedding ring, dropped it into an evidence bag. That when someone shows you who they really are, you should believe them. And then you should destroy them. Legally, of course. The Suburban's heated seats fought against my soaked dress as Daniel drove toward the city. I pulled out my phone, fingers steady despite the cold, and began orchestrating the end of Marcus Rivers. First email, sent to all 7 board members, marked confidential, urgent. Subject: Fiduciary Breach Documentation Package. Full presentation at Tuesday's AGM. FBI involvement confirmed. Within 3 minutes, Board Chairman William Thornton called Daniel's phone. "Morrison, what the hell is this about?" Daniel put him on speaker. "Mr. Thornton, I represent Isabella Rivers and 4 other victims of systematic elder financial abuse perpetrated by your executive vice president. We'll be presenting evidence at the shareholders' meeting." "This is ambush tactics. This is transparency," I cut in. "Unless you'd prefer we skip the meeting and go straight to the Wall Street Journal?" Thornton's pause spoke volumes. "We'll convene an emergency board session Monday morning." "See you Tuesday, Mr. Thornton. Oh, and you might want to freeze Marcus's corporate accounts. He's already tried moving $5 million offshore." Next, I called Special Agent Jennifer Walsh, FBI Financial Crimes Division. "Agent Walsh? Isabella Rivers. The subject just committed felony abandonment and made incriminating statements, all recorded. Send me the audio. We'll have arrest warrants ready by Monday noon." Rachel texted. "Just got a call from current CFO Patricia Wong. She found 3 more phantom projects. She's on our side." By the time we reached Daniel's office, my phone showed 47 missed calls from Marcus. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I changed into the spare clothes Daniel's assistant had somehow procured at 11 p.m., sat at his conference table, and began building a PowerPoint that would end my marriage, Marcus's freedom, and possibly Apex development as it currently existed. Slide 1 was simple: a photo of my mother in better days, alongside her forged signatures. Slide 2, $8.7 million stolen, 5 victims, 1 perpetrator. The rain kept falling outside. Somewhere in the city, Marcus was probably still believing I was walking home, learning my lesson. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. sharp, FBI field office, Lower Manhattan. The conference room smelled of burnt coffee and justice about to be served. Special Agent Jennifer Walsh spread my 847 pages across the table like tarot cards revealing Marcus's future. "Mrs. Rivers, in 20 years of financial crimes investigation, I've rarely seen documentation this thorough. I had 8 years to practice being invisible while watching everything," I replied, sliding over another folder. "These are the audio recordings, 23 separate conversations where Marcus admits to managing my mother's money." Agent Walsh's partner, Agent David Kim, pulled up the financial tracking system. "The money trail is clear. Shell companies, structured deposits, forged signatures. Your husband wasn't just stealing, he was running a sophisticated scheme." "With help," I added, showing them Tom Bradley's signature on key documents. "Apex's corporate counsel was getting 30%. "We'll need Bradley to flip," Walsh said. "Offer him a deal for testimony." "He won't need to," Rachel Foster said from the doorway, arriving with Patricia Wong, Apex's current CFO. "We have his emails discussing the distribution schedule with Marcus." Patricia, a small woman with steel in her spine, set down her laptop. "I've been documenting irregularities for 3 months, afraid to speak up. When I got Isabella's email last night, I realized I wasn't alone." "How many victims total?" Agent Kim asked. 5 elderly investors, including Mrs. Chen, Patricia confirmed. "Total theft, $8.7 million over 18 months. Walsh stood. "We'll arrest them both at the shareholders' meeting. Maximum public impact, no chance to flee." "Speaking of fleeing," I said, showing them my phone, "Marcus just booked a one-way ticket to Costa Rica for Tuesday afternoon." "Not anymore," Walsh smiled grimly, typing rapidly. "He's on the no-fly list as of now." We spent the next 6 hours building an airtight case. By the time we finished, the rain had stopped and the sun was breaking through the clouds. While we built his prosecution, Marcus lived his last weekend of freedom in blissful ignorance. His texts evolved throughout Saturday like a narcissist's grieving process. 10 a.m. "Hope you learned your lesson. I'll pick you up when you apologize." 2 p.m. "Stop being dramatic, Bella. This is childish." 6 p.m. "Fine. Stay at your mother's facility. I know that's where you are." 11 p.m. "We have the Thornton brunch tomorrow. Don't embarrass me by not showing up." Sunday morning brought voicemails, 23 of them. I saved each one, forwarding them to Agent Walsh. Evidence numbers 848 through 870. Bella, baby, let's talk about this like adults. His voice oozed false concern in message number 15. You misunderstood about your mother's money. It's all invested safely. I have the paperwork right here. Daniel, listening on speaker, shook his head. He's manufacturing false documents as we speak. Meanwhile, 3 of the 7 board members had privately confirmed their support. William Thornton himself called Daniel. If even half of what you're alleging is true, we'll support immediate termination. It's all true, I said, loud enough for Thornton to hear. And we have receipts for everything. The best intelligence came from an unexpected source. Marcus's secretary, Linda, who'd always been kind to me. Mrs. Rivers, she whispered over the phone. He's been shredding documents all morning, and Mr. Bradley's been here since 6 a.m. They look scared. They should be, I said. Linda, you might want to take Tuesday off. Why Tuesday? Just trust me. And Linda, thank you for always treating me like a person, not just an accessory. Her voice was soft. You deserved better, Mrs. Rivers. We all knew it. By Sunday night, Marcus had stopped calling. His final text read, "You're making a huge mistake." I typed back my only response. No, Marcus, you made it. 37 miles ago. Monday morning arrived with paperwork and precision. At 9 a.m. sharp, Daniel filed our civil lawsuit with the Southern District of New York, Isabella Rivers and others versus Marcus Rivers, Thomas Bradley, and Apex Development Corporation. Damages sought, $15 million under the Elder Abuse Act's treble damages provision. By 9:30, we'd secured an emergency asset freeze. Marcus would discover his accounts were locked when he tried to buy his morning coffee. At 10 a.m., Patricia Wong called. Marcus just stormed into accounting, demanding to know why his corporate card was declined. I told him to speak to legal. And Bradley? Packing his office, someone tipped him off about the freeze. Rachel pulled up the flight tracking app. Marcus's Costa Rica flight is still booked. He has no idea he's on the no-fly list. The FBI set their pieces in position. 6 agents would be stationed around the Apex building, 2 in the lobby, 2 in the parking garage, 2 in the meeting room adjacent to the main hall. Remember, Agent Walsh coached me, you're not there as the vengeful wife. You're there as a shareholder demanding accountability. I haven't been his wife since he left me in that storm, I said, straightening my suit jacket. The same charcoal Armani I'd worn to my last day at Deloitte. Tomorrow, I'm Isabella Chen, CPA, whistleblower, and 5% shareholder of Apex Development. Daniel handed me the final weapon, a USB drive containing everything. The moment you plug this in, it autoplays. 50 slides, all the evidence, timed perfectly. The board won't be able to stop it once it starts. That evening, I stood in my hotel room, looking at Manhattan's skyline. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably practicing his quarterly presentation, convinced he'd weathered the storm. He had no idea the storm was just beginning. And this time, I was the one bringing the rain. Monday night, 9 p.m. I sat in my hotel room, Daniel and Rachel going over final preparations. My phone lit up with a call from Willowbrook Memory Center. Mrs. Rivers, your mother is having a clear moment. She's asking for you. I found Mom sitting up in bed, more lucid than she'd been in months. Her eyes, those sharp brown eyes that built an empire, focused on me with perfect clarity. Isabella, she said, gripping my hand. Tomorrow's the day, isn't it? I hadn't told her, but somehow she knew. Yes, Mom. I remember him now, Marcus. I remember signing those papers. He said you needed the money, that you were in trouble. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I was so confused, but I trusted him because he was your husband. Mom, it's not your fault. Let me finish while I can. Her grip tightened. I built my company from nothing. I fought men who thought I was weak because I was a woman, an immigrant. I thought I was protecting you by setting up that trust. Instead, I gave him a weapon. No, Mom. You gave me the evidence. Every transaction he made is traceable. He got greedy, and greed leaves trails. She smiled then, fierce and proud. That's my daughter. Make him pay, sweetheart. Not for the money. I don't care about money anymore. Make him pay for thinking we were weak. I will. Her eyes started to cloud again, the moment passing. Who are you, dear? You look familiar. I kissed her forehead. Someone who loves you. Back at the hotel, I found an email from Marcus. Last chance, Bella. Come home tonight and we forget everything. Otherwise, I'll destroy you in the divorce. I forwarded it to Agent Walsh with a note. Evidence number 871. Then I went to bed, sleeping better than I had in 8 years. If you're watching this and thinking about what you'd do in my position, I want you to know that justice doesn't always come from confrontation. It comes from documentation, preparation, and using the legal system the way it was meant to be used. Have you ever had someone underestimate you, only to realize too late who they were dealing with? Comment below, but remember, the best revenge is lawful revenge. If this story resonates with you, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear that silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes it means you're building an airtight case. Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. 1 hour before I left for Apex, Rachel called with information that changed everything. Isabella, you need to see this. I've been going through Bradley's old emails with my forensic software. Your mother wasn't their first victim. She sent me a secured file. 4 names stared back at me. Dorothy Weinstein, 82, diagnosed with dementia. Robert Park, 78, Parkinson's disease. Maria Santos, 74, late-stage cancer. James Thompson, 81, deceased. Thompson died 6 months ago, Rachel continued. His family never knew about the missing $1.8 million. The others are all in care facilities, families struggling to pay bills while Marcus and Bradley lived off their money. My hands shook, not with fear, but with pure, crystalline rage. Total? Including your mother? $8.7 million over 2 years. Isabella, this qualifies for RICO charges. This is organized crime. I immediately called Agent Walsh. We have 4 more victims. Jesus Christ. Send me everything. This changes the arrest from fraud to racketeering. That's 20 years minimum. Daniel arrived at my room, looking grim. There's more. Alexis just sent proof that Marcus stole $500,000 from their father's estate. She's been documenting it for 3 years, too afraid to act. Why now? Because you gave her courage. She's flying in from Boston. She'll be at the meeting. I stood at the window, watching the sun rise over Manhattan. Marcus hadn't just stolen from my mother. He'd built his entire executive lifestyle on the suffering of elderly people who couldn't fight back. We need to update the presentation, I said, turning to my laptop. The new slide 23 was simple but devastating. 5 elderly faces, their names, their diagnoses, the amount stolen. Below, this wasn't a mistake, it was a pattern. Patricia Wong texted. Marcus just arrived. He's in his office practicing his presentation. He has no idea what's coming. I pulled on my jacket, checked my appearance one last time. The woman in the mirror wasn't Marcus's decorative wife anymore. She was a reckoning in a suit. At 8:30 a.m., Marcus's perfect morning started crumbling. Patricia told me later how it unfolded. First, his assistant Linda didn't show up. She'd taken my advice to stay home. Then his company credit card was declined again at the coffee cart. But the real panic started when Tom Bradley burst into his office, laptop in hand. We have a problem, Bradley said, showing him the court filing. Your wife sued us. RICO charges, Marcus. Federal RICO. According to Patricia, who was watching through the glass walls, Marcus went pale, then red, then purple. He tried calling me, blocked, his lawyer, who informed him he needed a criminal attorney now, his bank, all accounts frozen by court order. She can't do this, he'd shouted loud enough for half the floor to hear. She's nobody. She's just my wife. Meanwhile, I was in the lobby of the Apex building with Daniel, Rachel, and 6 FBI agents in plain clothes. Agent Walsh checked her watch. T-minus 90 minutes, everyone in position. Marcus's texts came rapid fire. Bella, this is insane. Call me. You're destroying everything we built. I'll give you whatever you want in the divorce. Answer me! Then, at 9:15, he must have checked the flight status because the next text was different. "What did you do? Why am I on a no-fly list?" Tom Bradley tried to leave the building at 9:30 but found Agent Kim waiting by his car. "Mr. Bradley, I wouldn't go anywhere if I were you. You'll want to be here for the meeting." By 9:45, Marcus had called 17 lawyers. None would take his case without a massive retainer he couldn't access. His final attempt at escape, trying to wire money from the Cayman Islands account, failed when the bank informed him it had been frozen by international court order. At 9:50, he sent one last message. "You win. What do you want?" I typed back, "Justice. See you at 10. Then I walked into the building where I'd been invisible for 8 years, ready to be seen. In the elevator to the 42nd floor, I got a text from an unknown number. "Isabella, it's Alexis. I'm in the lobby. Can we talk?" I met Marcus's sister by the security desk. She looked exhausted but determined, clutching a manila folder like a lifeline. "I should have spoken up years ago," she said without preamble. "When Dad died, Marcus was executor. I was only 23, grieving, trusting my big brother. He told me Dad left everything to charity, except for a small amount for each of us." "How much did he actually leave you?" $2 million each. Marcus gave me $50,000 and kept the rest." She handed me the folder. Bank statements, Dad's real will, everything. I was too scared to confront him alone. "You're not alone now." She surprised me by hugging me. "I'm sorry for every dinner where I sat silent while he belittled you. I thought if I stayed quiet, stayed small, he wouldn't turn on me, but silence just made him bolder." We rode the elevator up together. In the hallway outside the main conference room, we found unexpected allies gathering. 3 elderly men and women, the children of Marcus's other victims, had come after Rachel reached out. "Mrs. Rivers," one said, extending his hand. "I'm James Thompson, Jr. Your lawyer called me yesterday about my father. We had no idea the money was gone until you found it." Dorothy Weinstein's daughter was crying. "Mom kept saying someone was stealing from her. We thought it was the dementia talking." By 10 a.m., we weren't just 5% shareholders anymore. Together with the victims' families and Alexis, we represented 12% of Apex Development, more than enough to demand the floor. William Thornton saw us gathering and approached. "Mrs. Rivers, what exactly are you planning?" "Transparency, Mr. Thornton, something this company forgot about." He studied our group, then nodded slowly. "You'll have the floor after Marcus presents." "Actually," I smiled, "I think we'll take it during." 10 a.m. sharp. The main conference room was packed with 200 shareholders, several financial reporters, and a live stream camera for remote investors. Marcus stood at the podium in his $5,000 Armani suit, that practiced smile faltering only when he scanned the crowd. He didn't see me yet. I was standing in the back corner, partially hidden behind Daniel, but he saw Rachel in the 3rd row, Patricia Wong in the front, Alexis near the door. His eyes darted between them like a trapped animal sensing predators. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his voice steady but his hands gripping the podium. "Apex Development continues to show remarkable growth in challenging markets." The presentation slides behind him showed gleaming buildings, profit charts trending upward, smiling families in luxury apartments. The Marcus Rivers Show, polished and perfect. "Our Q3 results exceeded projections by 12%, he continued, clicking to the next slide. "This is thanks to our innovative approach to capital management and strategic partnerships." That's when I started walking. From the back of the room, down the center aisle. My heels clicked on the marble floor, each step echoing. Heads turned, whispers started. Marcus saw me when I was halfway there. His face went through a symphony of emotions, shock, anger, fear, then forced composure. "If we could hold questions until," he started. "I'm not here to ask questions, Marcus." My voice carried clear and strong. "I'm here as a shareholder to present evidence of systematic fraud." The room erupted. Board members stood. Reporters pulled out phones. The live stream chat exploded. William Thornton banged a gavel. "Order! Mrs. Rivers, you don't have the floor." "Actually, she does." Agent Walsh stepped out from the side door, badge visible. "FBI Financial Crimes Division. This is now a federal investigation." Marcus's perfect morning was officially over. The room fell silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning and the rapid clicks of phone cameras. Marcus stood frozen at the podium, his mouth opening and closing like a fish pulled from water. "Mr. Chairman," I addressed Thornton while keeping my eyes on Marcus, "I request permission to present evidence relevant to shareholder interests." Thornton looked between me, the FBI agents, and Marcus. "Granted." I walked to the podium, inserted my USB drive into the presentation system. Marcus stepped aside. He had nowhere else to go with agents at every exit. "Before we begin," I said, turning to the audience, "I want everyone to know that every piece of evidence I'm about to show has been verified by the FBI and forensic accountants." The first slide appeared, my mother's photo from healthier days, alongside her medical records showing advanced Alzheimer's. "This is Margaret Chen, founder of Chen Medical Supplies, diagnosed with Alzheimer's 2 years ago. She's also my mother, and one of 5 elderly victims of systematic fraud." Marcus grabbed the microphone. "This is ridiculous. I'm her son-in-law. I was helping manage—" "Slide 2, I continued calmly. The forged signatures appeared side by side with authentic ones. The difference was obvious even to untrained eyes. These signatures were used to steal $2.3 million from my mother's trust fund. The room gasped. Board members were on their phones, likely calling lawyers. "Bella, stop this," Marcus hissed, forgetting the mic was still on. "You don't understand business." Slide 3. Wire transfer records filled the screen, each one highlighted, tracked, traced to shell companies. "I understand fraud, Marcus. I understand racketeering. And I understand that you did this to 4 other elderly victims." Tom Bradley tried to leave. 2 agents blocked his path. "Slide 4, I said, my voice steady as steel. "Let me show you where the money really went." Project Haven LLC's corporate structure filled the screen, a web of shell companies all leading back to 2 names, Marcus Rivers and Thomas Bradley. "These supposed development projects never existed," I explained to the stunned audience. "No buildings, no permits, no construction, just paper trails designed to hide theft." Patricia Wong stood up from the front row. "As current CFO, I can confirm these projects don't appear in any legitimate Apex databases. They were completely off the books." Marcus's composure finally cracked. "You can't prove—" Slide 12. His own voice filled the room from the recorded conversation. "Your mom doesn't even know her own name. That money is just sitting there doing nothing." Several shareholders stood to leave, disgusted. The reporters typed furiously. "But my mother wasn't enough," I continued. Slide 15. 4 more faces appeared: Dorothy Weinstein, Robert Park, Maria Santos, James Thompson. Combined, these 5 elderly investors lost $8.7 million to fraud. Mr. Thompson died never knowing his life savings had been stolen. James Thompson Jr. stood up in the audience. "That's my father. He worked 40 years as a teacher, saved everything for his grandchildren's education. This man," he pointed at Marcus, "stole their futures." The board members were in crisis mode. William Thornton was on the phone with legal. 2 others were heading for the door, only to be politely redirected by FBI agents. "This ends now," Marcus said, reaching for my laptop. Agent Walsh stepped forward. "Mr. Rivers, I'd advise you not to touch that evidence." The trap was closing, and everyone in the room could feel it. A shareholder in the middle row stood up. "Mr. Rivers, did you just attempt to destroy evidence in front of 200 witnesses and the FBI?" Marcus's lawyer brain finally kicked in. "I want my attorney." "You'll have that opportunity," Agent Walsh said, moving closer to the podium. "But first, Mrs. Rivers has the floor." I clicked to the next slide, a timeline of transactions aligned with my mother's medical records. Notice the pattern. Every major withdrawal happened during my mother's documented episodes of confusion. Marcus would visit her during her worst moments, when she couldn't remember her own name, and get her to sign papers. Rachel Foster stood. I resigned as CFO because I discovered these irregularities. When I tried to report them, Mr. Rivers threatened to destroy my career. I have those threats in writing. Slide 23. An email from Marcus to Tom Bradley appeared. If Foster talks, make sure she never works in finance again. We have too much at stake. The room was electric with tension. Several shareholders were recording everything on their phones. The live stream viewer count had jumped to over 10,000. This is a witch hunt, Marcus shouted. I've made you all millions. The stock price is built on stolen money, I finished. Slide 30. The Cayman Islands account information appeared, showing $5 million ready for transfer. Yesterday at 4 p.m., Mr. Rivers attempted to flee the country with funds stolen from elderly investors. He has a one-way ticket to Costa Rica for, I checked my watch, 2 hours from now. That's when Marcus made his final mistake. He ran for the door. Marcus made it 3 steps before Agent Kim intercepted him. The room erupted in chaos. Shareholders standing, phones recording, reporters shouting questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I said into the microphone, my voice cutting through the noise. Please remain seated. This is about to become official. Agent Walsh stepped to the podium. Marcus Rivers, you're under arrest for wire fraud, elder financial abuse, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit fraud. You have the right to remain silent. Bella! Marcus shouted as Agent Kim cuffed him. You don't understand. It was for us, for our future. I walked closer to him, close enough that only he and the nearest agents could hear me clearly. No, Marcus, it was for you. It was always only for you. I raised my voice so everyone could hear. 8 years ago, I gave up my career to support yours. I became invisible so you could shine. And how did you repay that sacrifice? By stealing from my sick mother. By abandoning me on a highway in the rain because I dared to question you. The room was silent now, everyone straining to hear. 37 miles, Marcus. You left me 37 miles from home to teach me a lesson. Well, I learned something that night. I learned that the man I married was a criminal who preyed on the vulnerable. And I learned that 8 years of silence had given me something powerful. The ability to watch, document, and wait for exactly the right moment. I turned to the room. Slide 45. The screen showed a photo from that night. Me standing in the rain on I-95, soaking wet, taken by the dashboard camera of Daniel's car when he picked me up. Timestamp: 10:13 p.m., Friday. This was taken 3 days ago, minutes after my husband abandoned me. He thought he was punishing me. Instead, he gave me the final piece of evidence I needed. Tom Bradley was being cuffed now too, reading his rights by Agent Kim. Any last words for the shareholders, Mr. Rivers? I asked. His response was everything I expected. You'll regret this. No, I said firmly. I won't. With Marcus and Bradley in custody but still in the room, I continued the presentation. The agents allowed it. Public humiliation was part of justice. Slide 46. A detailed forensic accounting report filled the screen, prepared by Rachel and Patricia. Every dollar is accounted for, I explained. Every fraudulent transaction traced. Every victim identified. The total stolen, $8.7 million over 24 months. Dorothy Weinstein's daughter stood up. My mother is 92 years old. She built her savings over 60 years of teaching. This man stole $1.3 million while she was suffering from dementia. Slide 47. Marcus's voice again, from another recording. Old people don't need that much money. They're going to die anyway. The crowd's disgust was palpable. Several board members looked physically ill. William Thornton stood. I call for an immediate vote. Motion to terminate Marcus Rivers as Executive Vice President, effective immediately. Second, called 3 board members simultaneously. All in favor? Every hand in the room went up, except 2. Marcus's, which were cuffed behind his back, and Tom Bradley's, similarly restrained. Motion carried unanimously, Thornton announced. There's more, I said, clicking to slide 48. It showed Alexis Rivers' evidence about their father's estate. Alexis stood up, her voice shaking but determined. My brother didn't just steal from strangers. He stole from his own family. Our father left us equal inheritances. Marcus took 90% of mine and told me Dad had left me almost nothing. Marcus tried to speak, but his lawyer, who had finally arrived, whispered urgently in his ear to stay silent. Final slide, I announced. It was simple. A photo of all 5 victims in their younger days: teachers, nurses, business owners, parents. Below it, one line: they deserved better. The room was silent for a moment. Then slowly, applause started. First from the victims' families, then from shareholders, even from some board members. Marcus was led out in handcuffs as 200 people watched. The last thing he saw was his empire acknowledging his crimes. Marcus Rivers, Agent Walsh announced formally to the room, you are under arrest for 18 counts of wire fraud, 5 counts of elder financial abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, and violations of the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. The agents turned him to face the room as she continued reading his rights. Every phone in the room was recording. The live stream viewer count showed 47,000 people watching Marcus Rivers' downfall in real time. Tom Bradley, Agent Kim announced, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, and violations of fiduciary duty. Bradley looked like he might faint. I want to make a deal. I have information. Save it for the federal prosecutor, Agent Kim replied, leading him toward the door. As they passed my position, Marcus stopped, the agents allowing him one moment. Bella, please, he said, his voice breaking. You don't understand what you've done. My reputation, my career. Your victims, I interrupted. That's what I understand. Margaret Chen, Dorothy Weinstein, Robert Park, Maria Santos, James Thompson. Those are the names that matter. I'm your husband. Were, I corrected. You were my husband. You became a criminal the moment you forged my mother's signature. The crowd parted as the agents led them out. Someone started slow clapping, then another. By the time Marcus reached the door, the entire room was applauding, not for him, but for justice being served. William Thornton returned to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, in light of these revelations, the board will be conducting a full forensic audit of all company operations. We apologize to our shareholders and especially to the victims of these crimes. He turned to me. Mrs. Rivers, Ms. Chen, the board would like to thank you for your courage in bringing this to light. There's one more thing, I said, returning to the microphone. I make a motion as a shareholder. Apex Development should establish a victim restitution fund, starting with full repayment to all 5 victims, plus damages. Seconded, called out 6 shareholders simultaneously. All in favor? The vote was unanimous. The meeting dissolved into controlled chaos. Reporters rushed forward with questions. Shareholders crowded around me with congratulations and thanks. But I only had eyes for one group, the victims' families. James Thompson Jr. shook my hand with tears in his eyes. You gave my father justice he'll never know about. But his grandchildren will go to college now. Thank you. Dorothy Weinstein's daughter hugged me. Mom had a clear moment yesterday. I told her someone was fighting for her. She smiled for the first time in months. William Thornton approached with several board members. Ms. Chen, the board would like to offer you a position, interim CFO while we restructure. I'll consider it, I said. But first, I need to ensure every penny is returned to the victims. Patricia Wong handed me a tablet. I've already started the process. First wire transfers can go out tomorrow. My phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Check the news. I pulled up CNN's financial page. The headline read, Breaking. Apex Development EVP arrested for elder fraud in dramatic shareholder meeting. Wife turned whistleblower exposes 8.7 Annan scheme. The stock price had dropped 12% in the last hour, but surprisingly, several analysts were calling it a buying opportunity. Cleaning house, one wrote, is painful but necessary. Apex may emerge stronger. Alexis approached me quietly. Isabella, I know we were never close, but thank you. You didn't have to include my evidence. You could have just fought for your mother. He hurt you too, I said simply. Family or not, wrong is wrong. Agent Walsh returned to the room. Ms. Chen, we'll need you to come to the federal building tomorrow for formal statements. But I wanted you to know, with the evidence you've provided, Marcus is looking at minimum 7 to 10 years. Bradley might get 5 if he cooperates. And the victims? Full restitution is part of the plea deal we'll offer. They'll get their money back. For the first time in 8 years, I felt like I could truly breathe. Justice sometimes comes slowly, but when it's built on solid evidence and legal channels, it's undeniable. If you or someone you know is facing financial abuse, especially elder financial abuse, please seek help from legal professionals. Don't suffer in silence. Comment below if this story inspired you to stand up for what's right, and remember to subscribe to hear more stories about justice being served. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear this message. You are not alone. Documentation is your weapon, and the law is on the side of victims when they have the courage to speak up. 6 months later, Southern District of New York Federal Court. Mr. Rivers, Judge Patricia Hoffman read from the bench, you have pled guilty to 18 counts of wire fraud, 5 counts of elder financial abuse, and violations of the RICO Act. This court sentences you to 7 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years supervised release. Marcus stood in his orange jumpsuit, a far cry from his Armani suits. He'd lost 30 pounds, his hair was gray at the temples, and the arrogance had been replaced by something hollow. Furthermore, the judge continued, you are ordered to pay full restitution of $8.7 million to your victims, plus an additional $6.3 million in punitive damages. Tom Bradley had already been sentenced, 5 years after cooperating fully with prosecutors. His testimony had revealed 3 more victims in other states, bringing the total theft to over $11 million. Mrs. Chen, the judge addressed me, would you like to make a victim impact statement on behalf of your mother? I stood, my voice clear and strong. My mother built her company with her own hands, coming to this country with nothing. She trusted her son-in-law to protect her when she could no longer protect herself. That trust was betrayed in the cruelest possible way. But today, justice is served. Not revenge, justice. Through the proper legal channels, with evidence and due process. As they led Marcus away, he looked back once. I met his eyes steadily, then turned and walked out of the courthouse into the bright New York morning. The restitution came through like clockwork. $2.3 million returned to my mother's trust, plus $1.7 million in damages. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marcus's theft had actually resulted in a larger fund for her care. I used part of the punitive damages to establish the Chen Foundation for Elder Financial Protection. Within 3 months, we'd helped identify and prosecute 12 similar cases across New York State. Dorothy Weinstein received her $1.3 million back, plus damages. Her daughter called me crying. They could afford the premium memory care facility now, the one with the garden Dorothy loved. The Thompson family's educational trust was restored with interest. James Jr. sent me a photo of his twin daughters at Columbia University. Dad would have been so proud, he wrote. Apex Development, surprisingly, thrived under new leadership. Patricia Wong was promoted to permanent CFO, implementing forensic controls that became an industry model. The stock recovered and surpassed its previous high within 4 months. I accepted a position as Director of Compliance, not because I needed the money, but because I wanted to ensure nothing like this ever happened again at Apex. My mother, in one of her increasingly rare clear moments, held my hand during a visit. Did you win, sweetheart? She asked. We won, Mom. We all won. We all... Good, she said, squeezing my hand. I always knew you were the strongest one in that marriage. The best part? Every penny was recovered through legal channels. No revenge, no vigilante justice, just the law working exactly as it should when someone has the courage and evidence to use it. I bought a brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, not as flashy as the Upper East Side penthouse, but it was mine. Every mortgage payment came from money I earned, not money Marcus controlled. My office overlooked the garden where I grew tomatoes and roses, something Marcus had called pedestrian when I'd suggested it years ago. My CPA license hung prominently on the wall, no longer hidden in shame. The forensic consulting firm I started, Chen Financial Investigations, had more cases than I could handle alone. I hired Rachel Foster as partner and two young CPAs who reminded me of myself at Deloitte, eager and sharp. Alexis became an unexpected friend. We met monthly for coffee, building the relationship Marcus had made impossible. She was seeing a therapist, working through years of financial abuse and manipulation. "You saved more than just the victim's money," she told me one afternoon. "You saved our family from him, from what he'd become." Even Linda, Marcus's former secretary, reached out. She now worked at a nonprofit helping elder abuse victims. "You inspired me," she said, "to stop being silent when I see wrong." My mother's care was secured for life at Willowbrook's Best Wing. I visited daily, reading to her even when she didn't recognize me. The staff told me she seemed more peaceful now, as if some burden had lifted. I dated occasionally, nothing serious yet. Trust would take time to rebuild. But I was learning that being alone wasn't lonely when you actually liked the person you'd become. The speaking invitations started coming 3 months after the trial. Law schools, women's organizations, elder care associations. I accepted selectively, always with the same message. Documentation is your shield, the law is your sword. But courage is what makes you pick them up. I developed a presentation, the 37-mile lesson, recognizing financial abuse before it's too late. The warning signs I'd ignored, the red flags I'd rationalized, the slow erosion of financial independence that felt like love, but was really control. At Columbia Law, a young woman asked, "Do you forgive him?" "Forgiveness and justice aren't mutually exclusive," I answered. "I don't carry hatred. That would be letting him steal more from me. But forgiveness doesn't mean escaping consequences. He's serving his sentence. That is my forgiveness. Letting the law handle him instead of revenge." The hardest lesson to share was about complicity through silence. Every time I didn't correct him when he diminished my credentials, every time I let him speak for me, I was teaching him that I accepted being lesser. Boundaries aren't mean, they're necessary. I kept a photo on my desk from that night on I-95, soaking wet, standing in the rain. Not as a reminder of pain, but of transformation. That woman in the rain didn't know she was about to become her own hero. The 37 miles Marcus made me walk, they led me home to myself. And that journey was worth every step. 6 months after the trial, a letter arrived at my office. Federal Correctional Institution, Otisville. Marcus's handwriting, once so confident on million-dollar contracts, now shaky on prison stationery. "Isabella, I've had time to think. To really think. I need you to know I'm sorry. Not for getting caught, but for what I became. For what I did to you, to your mother, to everyone. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say it. Marcus." I read it twice, then forwarded it to my lawyer with a note. "Please file this with the others. No response needed." Because here's what 8 years of silence and 3 days of action taught me. When someone shows you who they are through cruelty, through abandonment, through betrayal, believe them and act accordingly. Marcus thought leaving me 37 miles from home in the rain would teach me about gratitude. Instead, it taught me about strength, my strength, the strength that had always been there, buried under years of "yes, dear," and "whatever you think is best." That night on the highway, soaking wet and alone, I wasn't learning the lesson he intended. I was learning that the woman who once managed millions at Deloitte, who scored in the top 1% on her CPA exam, who built financial models that saved companies, she was still there. She'd just been waiting for the storm to wash away the facade. My mother passed away last month, during one of her peaceful moments. The nurse said she'd been looking at a photo of me in my graduation cap, the one where I'm holding my CPA certificate. Her last words were clear. "That's my daughter, the strong one." The Chen Foundation has helped recover $47 million for elder fraud victims nationwide. Every case starts the same way. Someone who was told they were nobody, nothing, dependent, finally finding their voice and their evidence. 8 years of marriage taught me to be invisible. 37 miles in the rain taught me to be unstoppable. And 847 pages of evidence taught me that justice isn't about anger, it's about truth, methodically documented and properly presented. To anyone listening who sees themselves in my story, document everything, find your allies, trust the law, and remember, silence isn't weakness if you're building your case. The quietest person in the room might just be the one taking notes. Marcus has 6.5 more years to think about those 37 miles. Me? I have a lifetime to build something better on the foundation of truth, justice, and my own strength. That's not revenge, that's redemption. If this story resonated with you, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that they deserve better and that justice is possible through legal channels. Comment below. I read everything and try to reply to questions about the legal process. Next week's story. She stole my inheritance while I was deployed, the military lawyer who exposed everything. Remember, document everything, verify twice, and protect yourself legally. Never let anyone convince you that standing up for yourself makes you ungrateful or dramatic. You deserve respect, safety, and justice. Stay strong, stay smart, and I'll see you in the next video.